Well, thank you for coming into Hawkeye's House of Horrors. If you've never been here before, I am Hawkeye, and thank you, anybody returning or once again viewing a review I'm doing for the very first time. Today, I'm going to do a review for a film I haven't seen in quite a long time. It's approaching 10 years. When I was coming up with the list I had for 1981 of science fiction fantasy, this one was in there. I had it put in a specific spot, and I was just hoping, ooh, when I watch it, it is as good. If it's not, I'm going to review it anyways. But I think I was right. It's really good. It's as well. I would say maybe it's being talked about elsewhere, but it is a forgotten Sean Connery classic, and that is Outland. Now, the film was written and directed by Peter Hyams. Now, he's done quite a few different films over his career. Ones that kind of jump out to me, that he did 2010, the sequel to 2001. I will certainly review that in the future for sure, um, as well as Running Scared with Billy Crystal. He did a couple of Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think Time Cop was one. But he had just come off doing a Harrison Ford film called Hanover Street. And I've seen it a few times. Yeah, it's good. It'll never be in my top 10 Harrison Ford films. It does have its moments, though. Also starring Christopher Plummer. Kind of when they're working together, the film actually kind of works better. Um, but this is early in Hyams' career, doing this film here. Now, it was released on May the 22nd, 1981. And it had you know, a pretty good budget. It had a budget 18 mil back in it would have been 1980 when this uh, film began shooting. And in today's dollars, based on 1981, um, it would be $61.9 million today. Now, at the box office, this film didn't perform anywhere near where they thought it would. It may have broke even. I couldn't get an exact amount. It may have broke even, or it may have come just under the budget, or just up to 20 million. So yeah, this film didn't perform as well as they were thinking it would. I think I read it wasn't released to quite as many theaters um, as perhaps they should have, and the word of mouth for the film didn't really get the wheels turning on other people coming out, running out to the theater to see this film. But in the end, they may have got their money back with this film here. Now, Hyams wanted to do a Western, but he was told Westerns are dead. Nobody makes Westerns anymore. Nobody goes out to see them. Can't do a Western. So he more or less just transplanted his idea and put it into space. So it's got the two big um, influences I see here are Gary Cooper's High Noon, great flick, as well as Ridley Scott's Alien. It has the same kind of look and a bit of the feel that Alien did. I mean, this was released just 2 years later, so it's right on the heels of Alien, really. Not to mention, he's also got Jerry Goldsmith doing the music, and I'll get to that later. He did the music for Alien as well. Now, to just get into the story and the actors for Outland, it's set on the moon of Io, which is a moon around Jupiter. Interestingly, as I said, Hyams also did 2010, that film, and it's also set around Jupiter as well. So it's interesting. He has back-to-back films set around the same place in space like that. Now, on this moon of Io, there's it's like a small town. There's exactly, it even gives you the number. 2,144 people are living there. Um, and what it is they have a mining colony, or there's a mining going on for titanium on the moon of Io. When you're sent there, you're there for a year. Um, Not just to mine. There's other people there as well. Like we're going to get into them, but like law enforcement and medicine, for example. There's other people there as well. The place that they're set up at, or the where they are on Io, it's called Con 27, and I really enjoy or the look that they gave this logo. You see it everywhere in the film, and it says Con 27, and then it has this welcoming, friendly rainbow that like wraps around this Con 27, and it's really good because it's not like that at all. It's not a friendly place once you get into the story and find out what's going on. So I like that falsity that it's showing through this logo for this company. So we're going to get into the characters here. So we have the newly arrived Marshall O'Neill. Um, Misspelled. I don't know if it's actually ever spelled like that, but it's O, or like it's Niel, his name. But if you look on his name is on the front of his uniform, and sometimes the spelling changes as well, back and forth. But this is played by Sean Connery, and he does a very good job in this role. But O'Neill is there with his wife and his son, young son, maybe around 10 or 11, along with him as well. Now, I like how Connery does this, or how his character is written. More or less everybody in the picture is like this too, but he doesn't go through pages and pages of dialogue. His dialogue is rather straight to the point, and puts its point across quickly. So you're not um, spending a lot of time with dialogue really in this film, and that's good. It works very effectively. Now, some very weird things are going on with some of the workers. One of them, Stephen Burkoff, is the actor in that role. I certainly would remember him as the bad guy in Beverly Hills Cop. He's actually killed by Sergeant Montone, played by James B. Sicking, in a very good performance. Him, I certainly would always remember from Hill Street Blues. Um, but after this death, it strikes O'Neill as very strange. Something's afoot here. Something's going on. So he gets a blood sample from the dead body, very sneakily, of course. And then he hands it over to Dr. Lazarus, played by Frances Sternhagen. Um, and her character, I like her character. She's a nice, like, hard ass, is who she is. Her character, this doctor up on the moon of Io. It's interesting though. She likes to drink heavily at times when the job is done, of course, first, and then she starts talking about, or she's going to do some heavy drinking now. But anyways, they find that these workers are on drugs that makes them work like crazy. Um, now, unfortunately, it has a side effect, and the side effect is it will turn you psychotic. This in turn directs them to the general manager, Mark Shepard, who is actually setting up these drugs for these guys and setting them up, uh, getting these drugs inside of them so that they can work better, become more effective. The numbers look good. Everything looks better. That role is played by Peter Boyle. Very good performance from Peter in this one, which is usual. One thing I love though, because you have two bald men here. Sean Connery as Marshall O'Neill. He's wearing a toupee. And then you have Peter Boyle, the bad guy, who through the entire film wears a ball hat. Um, so your good guy can't be bald and your bad guy can't be bald. I guess bald guys are just bald, like they can't be either of those characters. So I find that kind of funny. Coming from a guy who, well, I'm wearing a hat myself, but I'm a little thin up there too. Another thing to note, I found rather funny as well. Not the first part, but O'Neill's wife and his kid leave him. They're going to go back to Earth. The reason is his son has actually never been on Earth in his entire life, and the mother wants him to go to Earth to experience what it's like on Earth. Um, so O'Neill's sergeant, Sicking, he gives his best scene in the film here when he shows that he's not exactly the shoulder to cry on about any of your problems. The same thing happened to him, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all to him. But he can direct you to a hooker, though. So I found that rather funny. Now, also in the film is John Ratzenberger, who played Cliff Clavin on Cheers, and Francis Sternhagen, who plays Dr. Lazarus, was also on Cheers and played Cliff's mother. So that's rather funny. But in this one, you get to see Ratzenberger's head explode at the beginning of the film. Now, the music is done by Jerry Goldsmith, as I said earlier, and I gotta say, the more I hear him, the more I enjoy him. He really is an excellent composer, really does a good job. As I said as well, he also did Alien, so it's kind of in that vein as well. Um, I wrote down that it's kind of spacey, space-like um, theme, as well as it's got a haunting theme going on with it as well. It blends extremely well with the images that Hyams is putting on the screen, and most certainly it adds tension to those scenes. Now, this film certainly is a science fiction film, but this film also does have some horror elements going on, along with the music by Goldsmith. Um, there are other things going on, like, for example, when O'Neill gets his ball rolling to get Mark Shepard, people that are bad people as well, like Sergeant Montone, um, as well as people that are in there. Uh, I forget their names, but they're in there transporting the drugs to the people. They start dying and they're found in almost like a slasher type way. So there's definitely some horror elements going on here in this film. Now, one scene I really enjoyed was actually O'Neill after the wife and son had left. When he talks to them, um, they're wanting him to come with them to Earth. They haven't left quite yet, but they're waiting for him to join them to go back to Earth. But he's telling them he has to stay on Io. He has to get this job done. And as he tells Dr. Lazarus, the reason why is to a good reason why is to show them that they were wrong about putting me here and thinking that I belong here and would just turn the other cheek and not care that this is going on, that people are dying here. Now, I can definitely tell when watching the film. I've seen other films by Hyams, but I can tell he's a competent director behind the camera. Um, there's also some good cinematography, which supposedly he does himself. He kind of was actually the guy that did a lot of the cinematography. I forget. I should have wrote it down who it was credited as, but he was brought in for another reason. But they does a good job in using light and the darkness, and that also adds into the horror elements, in my opinion, as well. And he does a very good job doing that. Now, one thing as well I noticed is there's a lot of people sweating in this movie. This is a sweaty movie. Um, Now, the scene when Ballard falls when he fights with O'Neill at the end of the film. He falls off to his death. They're outside. That shot, it reminds me of 2001 when Poole is like, it's almost like his umbilical cord is cut from the ship in 2001. He then floats out into space dead. It kind of reminds me of the same thing. Shooting began with actors for this film in June of 1980. The post production ended in February of 1981. This was the first film to actually use Introvision, and I think that's what it was. Where Hyams wanted to actually be the cinematographer for this to more or less get to know how to use the Introvision. Now I don't know. I'm not a big camera guy. I don't know everything about them, but from what I found out, it seems like it allows the filmmaker to first off shoot the effect shot with actors in the effect, and then you would be able to actually look at it in the viewfinder without more or less waiting for a print, or you can just see it right away, and it would cut down on time. Now, other films that use this as well, these are films I've all seen: Stand By Me, Rambo 3, and The Fugitive. Now, they stopped using this effect in 1994. It looks like that's when things were becoming digitized. So by that point, The Fugitive was kind of like the last big one that used Introvision. Now, there was actually a comic version of this story in the magazine Heavy Metal uh, from July to October of 1981 and the January issue of 1982. What's cool is I'm going to be reviewing heavy metal really soon here, so that's pretty cool. Alan Dean Foster also wrote a novelization of Outland. He actually wrote the screenplay to the original Star Trek, the motion picture, as well. Now, in August of 2009, Warner Brothers stated that Michael Davis was going to direct a remake of this film. Nothing, though, so far has materialized, and I'm just going to ask a question: Why? Why do we need to remake this film? It didn't do well at the box office the first time. And do we really need an updated version of Outland? I would say just watch the film. I don't know that this film is really talked about by many people, and I think it's really good, and I recommend it to people out there. So that was a lot of fun. That's my review of Outland with Sean Connery. So I can't wait to bring the next one, and I might have gave away what it is, but anyways, that was fun. Have yourself an excellent day.